All right, let's talk about one of the most mysterious and controversial texts in religious history, the Book of Enoch. It's this incredible work that's just jam-packed with fallen angels, giants, and mind-bending cosmic secrets. But for a book that was so important to early writers, it's missing from most Bibles. So, let's figure out why.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? This is a book that the authors of the New Testament absolutely knew about. They even quoted it directly. So why did it get left on the cutting room floor? Why was this hugely influential book pretty much forgotten for over 1,000 years? To get to the bottom of that, we first have to understand what it actually is.
So, the Book of Enoch claims to be written by the man himself, Enoch, Noah's great-grandfather. He's that mysterious figure in Genesis who walked with God and then was just taken up to heaven without ever dying. Now, while tradition says he's the author, scholars tell us its oldest parts were likely written around the 3rd century BC. That puts it right in a really critical time in Jewish history called the Second Temple period.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. The weirdest part about Enoch isn't just how old it is or who might have written it. It's how deeply connected it is to the Bible itself. A connection that, honestly, most people today have no idea about.
I mean, look at this. It's right there, in the New Testament. The Epistle of Jude doesn't just give Enoch a shout-out, it quotes him directly, word for word. Jude even makes sure we know exactly which Enoch he means, calling him the 7th from Adam. So, where did Jude get this quote from?
He got it from the Book of Enoch, and this just lays it all out, clear as day. The wording is practically identical. This shows that early Christians weren't just vaguely aware of this book. No, they were reading it, they were quoting from it, and they were treating it like an authoritative prophecy. So what in the world was in this book that got everyone so excited?
Okay, so this is where the story goes from interesting to absolutely wild. The Book of Enoch isn't just a dusty collection of prophecies. It's an epic that explains the origin of evil on Earth in a way that the Book of Genesis only hints at.
It all kicks off with a rebellion in heaven. A group of 200 angels, called the Watchers, make this forbidden pact. They come down to Earth, take human wives, and that's when everything just falls apart. They betray God by teaching humanity all this secret, forbidden knowledge, how to make weapons, sorcery, you name it. And their children? They become the Nephilim, a race of giants who are so destructive they devour everything and everyone. The world becomes so chaotic that the archangels have to beg God to intervene. And he does, by imprisoning the fallen angels and sending the great flood to wipe the slate clean.
What's so cool is that the Book of Enoch isn't even one single book. It's more like a collection, a library of 5 separate works that were all written at different times and then compiled together. You've got the story of the Watchers we just talked about. Then there are the parables, which introduce this messianic figure called the Son of Man. There's even an astronomical book about the cosmos. Each part just adds another wild layer to this incredible vision.
So, if this book was so popular, and it was clearly influencing the New Testament writers, that brings us right back to our original question. Why was it kicked out of the club?
Well, the whole answer really comes down to this one word, canon. The canon is basically the official VIP list of books that are considered divinely inspired scripture. Getting your book on that list is a huge deal, and the debates over what gets in and what gets left out, well, that's a massive part of religious history.
And here's the thing. Enoch basically got hit from 2 sides. Within Judaism, some rabbis thought its wild stories about angels sinning were, blasphemous, and they weren't too keen on how it reinterpreted parts of the Torah. Then, in Christianity, even though it was super popular with the early church fathers, it eventually got sidelined. By the time the 4th century rolled around and leaders were trying to standardize everything, Enoch, with all its strange and sensational content, was basically labeled apocryphal, which is a nice way of saying of questionable authority. And boom, it was left out. But, and this is a huge but, it never completely disappeared. The Ethiopian and Eritrean Orthodox churches never got the memo to reject it. For them, the Book of Enoch isn't some lost, weird text. It's a core part of their holy scripture, and they've been preserving it for centuries while the rest of the world just forgot it existed.
And that act of preservation is what leads to one of the most incredible stories of literary rediscovery you'll ever hear.
So get this. After the 4th century, the book is basically a ghost in the Western world. For over 1,000 years, it was known only through a few little fragments and references. Then, out of nowhere, in 1773, this Scottish explorer named James Bruce comes back from Ethiopia with 3 complete copies, and the academic world just loses its mind.
The final proof of just how ancient it was came in 1948, when they found pieces of Enoch in Aramaic, its original language, among the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And we has physical proof. This right here is a page from a Greek manuscript from the 4th century. When you look at something like this, it just hits you how old this text really is and how unbelievably close we came to losing it forever. It only survived because some communities held on to it, believing it was sacred.
So you might be thinking, okay, cool story, but why does this book still matter? Because here's the kicker. Even though it was kicked out of the canon, its ideas never went away. In fact, its influence is kind of hiding in plain sight.
So many of the big ideas we associate with the New Testament were actually powerfully shaped by the Book of Enoch first. The title, Son of Man, for the Messiah, a detailed backstory for demons and the origin of evil, vivid, fiery descriptions of the final judgment. Enoch was exploring all of this stuff in incredible detail long before it became central to Christianity. It was like it provided the theological vocabulary and the cosmic blueprint for so many later beliefs.
And all of this leaves us with one last big, thought-provoking question. The journey of the Book of Enoch, from being this hugely influential text to a forbidden chapter to a rediscovered classic, it's a powerful reminder that history is often written by the winners. It really makes you stop and ask, how are holy books actually chosen, and who gets to decide? And maybe even, what other stories, what other entire worlds were left behind?